Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Only Women. I have a great panel of ladies to present to you today. I have Tawnya-Gregory. She has been a member of senior staff and served on boards and speaks publicly in schools, women's meetings, and internationally, and has been a minister since 2004. Tawnya grew up in a home where 22 foster children came through her life. Her book, A Natural Child in a Foster Care Home, is full of true stories of her childhood growing up with foster children. I also have Sharon-Jawo, and Sharon is a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. She has her BSW, her MSW, and her own unique amusement business. Sharon aids in teaching youth ministry at her church. She also serves as a business coach for many start-up businesses. I have Belinda Barbieri. Belinda works for a Fortune 500 company and then decided to temporarily step away from the corporate world to become an author. As the author of Meet the Pups, she engages children with important life lessons and promotes exemplary behavior, both at home and at school. I have Dalia Burgoin. Dalia is the founder of Inside Out and creator. She has created a program towards spiritual women that get them ready to get in control of binge eating. She is a spiritual counselor, ordained minister, energy healer, specialist in using Benedictine monastic traditions for recovery, and advanced chi instructor in a unique method of bioenergy healing. Professionally, Dalia holds both a linguistics and a Doctor of Divinity degree. She is certified in both advanced chi instruction as well as acupuncture. Dalia uses her knowledge from Berkeley University to help with happiness and positive psychology. She has also studied nutrition as well. She enjoys spending time in her holy places and creating good-feeling melodies on the piano. So as you can see, we have a well-rounded group of ladies today. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
Now, we are going to talk about things that deal with only women or women only, you could say, but I think that you're going to enjoy today's panel. So I'm going to pick your brain about things that are interesting to how women need to look at the world or how the world looks at us. So let's jump right in. I want to talk first about sports. Many times you say the word sports and the idea of women's sports doesn't even come to mind. So my question is, with women's sports, it is a big business, but it is not as large as men's sports. Do you believe that that's because women simply aren't watching? Is it because men aren't supportive? Maybe the marketing is bad? What do you think it is, and what do you think we could do to help make it better?
Well, personally, this is Tawnya, and as personally as I look at women's sports and hear about it, women have diverse interests, and so I don't think whereas men are focused, sports is a primary part of their makeup, you might say. For women, there's so many other things that they're interested in that sports are not on the top priority for them. That is my opinion, but that's kind of the way I always sensed it. It's more of an interest factor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is Belinda.
Okay, go ahead, Belinda.
Hi. So men grow up playing different sports than women, right? And they are absorbed in it. And they understand the rules and the intricacies of the different sports that they play as kids, and then they grow up with and get very excited over, and it's like a camaraderie. But recently, I have to tell you, my sister's son is now playing football, and now she is so excited about it because she understands the rules and she understands all those intricacies. So I think I know you can't do research party of one, but in looking at her situation, I love that she's so excited about the Super Bowl this go-round, and it's really because she understands the sport. So I think it's what you're exposed to.
It's just
And
what you're exposed to, right? Go ahead.
right. And this is Sharon-Jawo, and I would like to just piggyback off of what they were saying. I really believe it depends on your perspective and how you were growing, how you were raised. But on the other hand, I do tend to believe that sports are more watched, and it's more like a world, you know, the world perspective is sports are for men. I think we were raised that way. But women, too, have an interest in sports. As Tanya was saying, women do have an interest in sport, and it's more like an interest for us. But it is, I think that it's equivalent, and it's just as important to women as it is to men. However, I don't believe that men view it the same. I don't think that they look at women's sports or women playing sport as equivalent, and the magnitude is not equivalent to them men playing sports.
To piggyback off of what she was saying, I've watched a few TV shows and things in the media that have this running joke that women's sports are just kind of dull and it's not real sports. And so it is that idea that there is a difference and it's not real. And there is this idea also that if a girl likes sports or if a woman likes sports, that she was kind of trying to be mannish. And I remember really liking sports growing up, and you know, I was accepted, but I also was also called a tomboy a bunch of the times when I did like the sport. But and so it is nice to see that it is getting more mainstream and women are getting more accepted in the sports arenas.
Well, staying in the same vein of sports, we are starting to see that women are starting to experience some of the same sports injuries as their men counterparts, but many times they are being misdiagnosed or they're not being taken seriously. Do you think that something needs to change there? Is it awareness? Is it understanding of women in general? Or do you think that women need to speak up more? What do you think needs to be done to make sure that our women athletes are taken care of medically just as well as their male counterparts?
I play a lot.
Medical. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Belinda. I play a lot of golf, and I have to tell you, I have many of the same injuries as my partner, Michael, and we are just built differently. So while our backs might hurt together, I feel like the treatment is different, and you really have to just stay active. And whatever sport that you are participating in, you need to practice and really, especially as you get older, work those muscles and work that muscle memory so that you're not as vulnerable to those injuries.
Right.
And I can agree with that. I think what Belinda is saying makes complete sense. We are built differently, and keeping active makes a difference. I'm not so much into the sports, but I do. I work a lot with power tools and fixing things, and I enjoy that kind of activity. And I do it alongside of a lot of men that work on my volunteer teams. At the same time, my injuries sometimes actually can come up doing the same thing as a man's because I am made differently. So women experiencing the sports injury, it's still there. The misdiagnosis is sad because our medical expansion of the last several years, it's almost surprising because sports medicine has escalated. And I know that even my husband, who's not in sports, went to a sports doctor for feedback on his knees. And it was a car accident years ago that caused it. So I'm really surprised that they're being misdiagnosed, and that's, I would say, always get a second opinion if you're feeling you're not getting the right opinion, and go to the people that are working with sports injuries. Go to the people that are focused on the injury that you have, and maybe that can be changed. I agree with Belinda. Staying active, eating healthy has a serious impact on what our bodies can handle. And most sports people, I would anticipate or hope, realize that good nutrition keeps a good, healthy body. It's a machine, as they call it, good running machine. So it's sad to hear that in this day and age that men and women are being misdiagnosed, except maybe just like a heart attack symptoms, where a man's symptoms are different from a woman's, perhaps that's why that's happening. And again, that would be the difference in the makeup of the body.
Mm-hmm. Well, mm-hmm. I think also, this is Sharon speaking, I think also as women, we have to pay attention to our bodies, and we have to take our injuries serious, because right. as the quote-unquote weaker sex, men may not take our injuries as serious, and they may be our physicians. Like, you may have a male physician, and they may diagnose you, and they may not misdiagnose you, but it may not be equivalent to a male having the same injury.
Yeah. Well, Sharon, since you mentioned that, that was my next question, and that is women as victims. Is the image of women as the weaker sex still around? And Sharon, I know that you kind of touched on that. So is that still true that we're considered the weaker sex?
Sadly, but true. I believe it depends on your perspective. And again, I believe that we as women most women we don't look at ourselves as the weaker sex. However, mm-hmm. I don't think that it's been changed with men. I believe that men looks at us as the weaker sex. Gotcha. And when we do have injuries or when we are doing things that may harm us or hurt us, mm-hmm. they may say, well, and they may be doing the same thing and having the same injury, but it goes back to, they'll say, well, we're not strong enough, or we shouldn't be doing that because that's a man's job.
Right. Well, ladies, let me ask you this question. Things have changed since the time of our grandmothers, but are women still being held to the same measure?
Are you saying in the same measure as our grandmothers? As yes. in, you have these certain jobs in the household and I have those sort of jobs in the household? Mm-hmm. I think in some cultures there's definitely that. And I think the people that I've watched and talked to over the years, I think it's the perspective and the background that you're raised in. I look at my husband's family, and just in the boys raised in the same household, there's different perspectives on that. My husband and I share them because when we were early in marriage, we both worked full-time and everything had to be shared. So we have diversified that. That's not the case in with a couple of the relatives. So it clearly can be very much there, and it's when there's a decided decision in the couple to change that, I think that's where we see the changes and a healthier balance in the marriage typically.
Mm-hmm. I agree. This is Dalia. And I feel that values are passed down from our families. And when a family puts a high value on a woman cooking or a woman being motherly, for example, this is passed down to all the children. So the danger of this is that there will always be one child, or there might be one that is just not into cooking. They're not cooking inclined. Or maybe they don't want to have children. And so they may not be interested in it, or they may feel like they're not good at it. And so these girls and women might grow up thinking that there's something wrong with them, or that they're the black sheep of the family because they don't cook, and not realizing this was simply a family value and not really a moral idea of what a woman's supposed to be. So many self-esteem issues can stem from a well-intentioned family pushing values onto their children.
As a business... Hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hi. This is sharon-jawo. I was just, who was that who just spoke? Was that Delilah? What's her name? I'm sorry.
Dalia.
Dalia. Yes, Dalia. I would also like to say, on the other hand, boys will grow up and they will see that their mom having that role, and then they will assume that that's the woman's role because their mom did that. Exactly. And it could trickle down and pass down. So I totally agree with what you just said.
I just wanted to mention from a business perspective that I think we are wearing so many hats these days, and women are exhausted because they've shown that it's like seriously amazing all the different things we can do, as a mother, a wife, a provider. I mean, the women are they're getting the kids ready for work. They're going to work all day. Then they're feeding the family when they get home. It's just amazing the things that we are doing now. And I mean, we always feel like we can do more. We're not doing enough as well. So we've got that guilt feeling too, right?
Absolutely.
So I think the expectations have really changed since time of our grandmothers, because you're expected to do it all, wear a lot of hats.
Right. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we are definitely going to continue this great conversation about women only. Only women. We'll be back right after this.
Smell Good Spa for the women who are making a conscientious change in their personal care products. Specializing in signature fragrance oils, hand-dipped incense, and wholesome bath and body and personal care products. Smell Good Spa. Use code HELLO25 for 25% off your order. Live good, feel good, smell good wholesomely. SmellGoodSpa.com.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know, which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative? I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Before every slam, I pick out 7 outfits. 7. One for every match I need to win. I wouldn't pick 7 outfits if I didn't plan on wearing them all.
And we are back. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's series. I have a great group of women with me. I have Sharon-Jawo, who is the author of Starting a Business, Allowing Holy Spirit to be Your CEO. She is also an entrepreneur and works in ministry. I have Tawnya-Gregory, who is also the author of A Natural Child and Foster Care Home, and she also works in ministry. I have Dalia Burgoin, who is the founder of Inside Out, and I have Belinda Barbieri, who is an author and also an entrepreneur and has written Meet the Pups. All righty, ladies, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. I want to talk now about male and females, about how we adjust to marriage. And for many people, it's like, I don't want to talk about marriage because that can be a touchy subject. Exactly. That's why I want to talk about marriage. So do you think that men and women have the same expectation when it comes to marriage?
I don't think they do, as we were talking about. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Everyone says no.
Yes, I love to jump in on this because, listen, I have to tell you from my personal experience, I am married, and my husband is from Africa, and our religion, we spiritually we believe differently. So culturally it's different, and spiritually it's different. So I think we came into marriage with different expectations. Going back to the roles that we spoke about earlier, he had his mind set, quote unquote, on the roles of a wife and the roles of a husband. But it did not. That's not how our marriage is today. So we did have different expectations when it came to marriage.
Right. Well, that's interesting. This is Tanya. And Sharon, that is interesting how you have the culture and everything. And at the same time, my husband and I had the same thing. We grew up literally 7 miles apart from each other, didn't know each other until later in life. But when we married, he came from a single-parent home, and primarily. And then I was with a home where my father, as a farmer, was right there. So not only was it a two-parent home, but it was a home where the father was very interactive and very much involved in everything that was going on. So when I came into the marriage, I had all that expectation. And when he came into the marriage, he had all that expectation of me because it was mom only. And, well, mom did a whole lot. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be in this too. So it was very interesting, and we definitely had different expectations. And I think the way we were raised made a huge difference. And there again, it was our intention of we need to look at this differently. What is our marriage going to be that made the change? And now 32 years later, it's a whole lot better than the first 2 years.
Yeah. Well, ladies, let me ask you this question then. Would you say that the idea of traditional marriage is giving way to a more modern understanding of what it means to be married, meaning that there's some shifting in the gender roles and it's becoming not just you do this and I do that, but let's get it done together?
This is Dalia, and I feel like for the most I feel like for the most part, most marriages have a more traditional role, at least mine does. But I have heard recently, and I've been running into this a lot, that there are a lot of modern marriages that, and this surprises me, there's a lot of modern marriages that are resorting to the husband and the wife sleeping in separate rooms, and that many houses, it's such an increase in houses now that are being built with twin master bedrooms. And this is due to the fact that when couples are in the same bed, they might be complaining that one's always stealing the sheets and they're just uncomfortable with the heat or whatnot. So it's kind of surprising that in the modern marriages this is happening.
I think that costs have risen to much greater heights, and families often require like a double income. So things have changed so much from the times when the mom was home and now the mom's going to work. And I think expensive technology has played a big role in this as well, because we all have these things that we aspire to carry around with us, and it's you know, the expenses have changed so much that I think that has also helped to shape and reshape the marriages.
Well, kind of along the same vein of talking about marriage, of course, and that is the idea of a trophy wife. Do you think men are still looking for that trophy wife?
I don't think men will ever stop looking for that.
Right. I agree with you, Sharon. I agree with you because they are visually, they're visual. They're very visual. Men are more visual than women. I think the trophy wife is always out there unless they intentionally look for the heart. You know, that's always going to be the trophy wife, not only looking good, and even if she's not like the perfect size 2 or whatever it is today, just that she's well-dressed, put together, carries herself well, confident in herself. I think men look for that in their trophy wife much more so, or at least they're trying to push for more of that. But I think the old culture or the old mindset and the attracted, what are you attracted to, always will raise its head for men. But then a wife also likes to have someone that takes care of themselves, does this. But they're willing to give in, I think, to someone that has got a kind heart that will hear them.
I agree. I believe that, this is Dalia, that trophy wives and maybe even trophy husbands are more modernized now. And so I feel that husbands are more looking for more than just the looks now. I do feel that looks are very important for a visual man. But I also feel that it's a bit more impressive if their wife can also have an intelligent conversation and social charm and be able to impress with their words. And especially a person who's more powerful, he may want a wife or a spouse who can impress with their demeanor and their social class and their experiences and not just their attractiveness anymore. And the idea of a wife, for example, being beautiful but unintelligent, that seems to be a way of the past now. At least that's what I've been perceiving.
I agree with you. And I actually asked a few men at work about this. I said, so the trophy wife, do you still look for the trophy wife? And every single one of them said, absolutely. But they did throw in that they are also looking for a friend, a true friendship, and, again, someone they can learn from. So I thought that was kind of sweet.
Now, see, it is so wonderful. This is why they are on the panel today, because we get to have such a diverse group of women here that are discussing from different spectrums. I love it. Ladies, I want to kind of change the subject to toys. And I know for many people who are like, toys? Well, as women, we have bought toys either for our children or for a niece or nephew or even our, best friend's kids. And toys is something that are in our lives no matter what. So I want to ask this. Are we still buying toys that are gender-based, and is that okay? What do I mean by that? Are we still buying girls' dolls and boys' trucks?
Well, I have to say, this is Sharon speaking. I have 3 small boys, and I do not buy them dolls. Now, I have read that there are people that are doing that now. They are not buying gender-based toys based on, the gender of the child. However, I just haven't succumbed into that yet. I have a daughter who's 20. I bought her dolls. I did not buy her toy trucks or things like that. But like I said before, as I read, I am seeing now that is going out of the window. People are not buying gender-based toys as much as they did back when my mom was younger or when I was younger.
I grew up in a family of 6 kids, 4 girls and 2 boys, and we just had a big toy box. And we played with whatever we wanted, and my mother never said, Belinda, put down that baseball bat and ball. You're a girl. And we played with the soldiers, and I don't know. I think it's important to let kids make choices, right? And then learn from those choices. So I think it's fine to purchase gender-based toys. People can do whatever they'd like, but I think you should also expose your kids to a variety of things outside of that.
I love how you said that, the toy box full. I think as we look at them in the gender-based, to be not pressing in any direction by the toy that is interest of the child. Now, granted, when they're real small, that's a little more challenging, but as they're older, if they tend to play with the trucks and such or the building blocks rather than the doll, then, you buy the gift that is in that area. But that toy box, that's not the focus of this is your gift, but it's the general toy box has everything in it. Then the child is naturally drawn to what they enjoy and what they want to play. If they want to play house, you need people. My boys, I had 3 boys. We didn't have dolls in the house. It just would cross our minds to buy them. But they had stuffed toys, and they became all the people in the games or whatever they were playing. So I love the idea of the open toy box with all the pieces, all the different things in it, and you focus on the interest of the child when you buy them a gift that's directly given. I think that's a healthy way to let them grow.
Well, let me ask you, ladies, kind of the flip side of the same coin. We now have many dolls that are reflecting professions, lawyer doll, doctor doll, nurse, scientist doll. We have plumber action figure. We have military action figure, so on and so forth. But we're also having toys that are now created for the various ethnicities that we have reflected in the world. Do you think that in that toy box, that same toy box that has gender-specific toys available for anyone to play with, should we also start to include some of those dolls or action figures that are of professions or of different ethnicities to open up the door even wider of the possibility to our children?
I would love to jump in real quick and say absolutely. I think that is the healthiest thing that we can do. I love that idea. I think that way they can grow, and color is out of the picture, because people are beautiful all over the world. And I think that is an excellent way of helping get rid of the mindset that color makes a difference.
I think, again, anytime you can give the child choices, right, and then they can learn from those choices. So maybe they start to play with the veterinarian doll, and they find out, wow, I like animals, but maybe I don't like all these different things that come with the veterinarian doll, and their choice leads them in another direction. I think, again, the more choices you could give kids and the more tools from the toy box you could put in their hands, the better it is for them.
Well, everyone, it is time for us to take a break, but don't worry, we will continue this conversation. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining in on this beautiful panel discussion. My guests today are Tawnya-Gregory, Sharon-Jawo, Dalia Burgoin, and Belinda Barbieri. So let's talk about aggression. Now, the word aggression and independent sometimes are viewed differently when we're talking about male and female. But why do you think that when we talk about those words from the male perspective, they're perceived as being strong? But when we talk about it when it comes to women, they're viewed as out of control or too much. They're over the top. Aggression, independent. What are your thoughts, ladies?
Well, I think that aggression and independence, both of them, part of the reason, or two-part actually, is there is our background. Men have, traditionally been the one that have been the hunters, I almost want to say the barbaric type that has gone out and, done this. So it's almost expected to have that strongness. But personally, when I see a woman that is aggressive, quite often it's displayed differently. It comes with volume. And I think that is part of the reason it is seen so differently between men and women. And women are expected, or men want a woman that isn't going to run over them, but will work with them, or in some cases, sadly, be subversive. Not submissive, but subversive to them, and which isn't healthy for anyone. But it is maybe the culture they grew up in, the mindset that they have. At the same time, I think part of the reason that we see aggression and independence between the two so much differently is because women feel they have to press forward more. A lot of times it comes with more volume, I think, than just an independent confidence.
And I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair that it's viewed differently, but however, it's the same concept. So men can be aggressive, and that's okay. However, if women are more aggressive, then they're frowned upon, or like you said, they're viewed like they're out of control or too much. And it may take that aggression to get their point across. But men don't. And when I say aggressive, I just mean like being very stern or speaking loudly, things like that. Men tend to look at us like we're out of control, but really it may take a little bit more for us to get our point across because they're not listening.
I asked, this has come up quite a bit at work, of course, when you're leading teams, the difference between a man leading the team or a woman leading the team. And one of the comments that a man made to me once was that, oh, my gosh, I feel like I'm being scolded by my mother. And I think it really comes down to the tone and the mannerisms when you're kind of leading people. They want you to be partners. I think in marriages and any relationship with men and women, they want to look at you in a partnership versus you talking down to them. And I agree that unfortunately women tend to raise their voice when they are trying to be stronger. And maybe men do view that as their mom scolding them. I just thought that was kind of an interesting perspective.
Well, speaking of mothers and children, some generations didn't have daycare, and it was perceived with what we do with our children when they're younger. At the times of our grandmothers were different. They depended on family members or churches or even neighbors for support when they needed to be away from home. Do you think that we have finally figured out how to care for the children of the now working mother?
When I was, my children are in their mid-20s. My oldest is 27. And we wanted a one-on-one with our newborn when I went back to work. And it was important for us that they had that one-on-one just to have good, healthy development. And so we didn't put him into the daycare until later. And I've worked with many people in our church. We had a daycare, and I've talked with many of the workers there. And it's almost sad to see that there's multiples, but there is an intensity and an intentional purposing of the daycare worker to give the young babies, attention. The state requires fewer babies than toddlers per person. And I think that's good that we do that. I don't know that I can say it's all around a better way to do it. It certainly fits the need of today with a double income needed to support the household. And I think it's healthy for the child to have a good positive place to go. But I do think that we kind of lose something in a way if mom and dad are both exhausted when they come home, and then that time with their child isn't as intimate and as high quality.
Well, along that same vein, we're finding that so many working moms are feeling guilty about having to go to work long hours, and they wish that they could do more. Now, there are some dads, too, of course, but we really hear this expressed from our mothers. What are some ways that you think that they can help organize their lives so that they don't have to feel quite as guilty for still acting in the role of provider?
We have worked from home. Working from home has become very common now, and it does help the mom to maybe take time in the middle of the day and go to school and spend some time with their child if there's an event, or participate in other activities. I think that's really terrific. I think the most important thing is, from a practical perspective, the mom has to prioritize her family, prioritize her work, however she feels fit, and then she will feel confident about what she's doing.
What worked for me when because I work at home, but I still have to prioritize, like she just said. And what works for me is having a family calendar, which gives my daughter the idea and the ritual of when we're going to spend time together. So she'll know when we have dinners together, and she'll also know that, like, Sunday, for example, is mommy and me fun day, and so she'll have that to expect, and it also, just knowing that I'm going to give her that time gives me a lot less guilt as well.
Right.
That's nice. So you're trying to schedule a date with your kids, right?
Right. And I do just want to add this on, reiterate what you guys said, just add this piece on with it. I think a lot of times we tend to take our work home with us. So when we leave work, we're still working. Right. So what I have learned to do is to not talk on my cell phone, do not answer my cell phone or respond to texts unless it's very important that I do so at the moment when I'm at home with my family, so that when I leave work, I leave work. And I can devote that time to my family and my children.
That is extremely important, and I love how you said that, Sharon. I also love how I believe it was Belinda commented about making that appointment. I see more and more moms and dads having father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter, a one-on-one time, and that is making huge differences in their children. Where they've come upon doing this was based on the fact that they were having challenges, and they were hearing their child say, well, I never get to see you anymore. You're always working, or you're always taking care of the baby. You never spend time with me anymore. Right. And I love that we're hearing they're saying, you know what, this is yours and my time. You and I are going to go and have some time. We're just going to do whatever you want to do, walk through the mall, go have coffee, go get our nails done, go print, go have fun. It's just us. That is huge, and I think making our next generation a whole lot stronger for the future that they're going to hold.
And I think that several of you, Dalia as well, you kind of mentioned that too, that we need to make sure that we are putting our children on the same level as everyone else. Don't make everyone else more important. Though we say that family is important, don't allow us to schedule someone else before our children, and I think that is really, really important. Just one more question dealing with children, and that is as a therapist, I have found that many of my clients are coming in, and the problem ends up being these learned behaviors that they've picked up from their parents. They're anxious because they lived with an anxious parent, to kind of put it in a nutshell. So speaking of learned behaviors, how can women live a life to help their children be their best?
Well, this is
I think part of that comes back to looking in the mirror and saying, what can I do? How can I change to be a better person myself? And when we see our own, as a homeschool mom, I've seen all my weaknesses show up in my children because the things that I would like least about them, I would say, oh, Lord, help me, because that is what I do. So, Lord, change me.
Well, I agree with that. I think that's important.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I agree.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I feel that many parents have this do what I say and not what I do attitude towards their children, and this is not how children learn. Children pick up what they see their parents do, and that's for better or worse. And I work with a lot of women who tend to struggle with their body image. And although they try to keep the struggle from their daughters and they tell them that they're beautiful no matter what, a lot of them will develop eating disorders based on just what they've seen their mother go through. And so, like what was already said, I feel that for a woman to help their children live the best type of life, they would need to work on any insecurities that they themselves would never want their children to have and do it as early as possible. But at the same time, there's no time that is too late. So if a child witnesses her parent working on herself, she might also pick up the learned habit that working on herself or working on oneself is an important aspect of self-love.
And in that same vein, Dalia, and thank you for mentioning this. And ladies, this is the last question for you, and that is about attractiveness. Do you think that as women we are starving ourselves to be beautiful? And I mean that in that we are so willing to go to whatever extreme it is to make sure that we have what society as a whole says is beautiful, even if it includes those things that aren't good for us.
Well, this is Sharon, and I would like to say, I was just going to say that I really think it goes back to you knowing who you are, which I have to say it's about having a close relationship with Jesus Christ so that you can be comfortable in the skin that you're in, because I think that the media shows us that being skinny, it's beautiful. Well, I think that's changing, but it just, your size matters and things like that. You're materialistically and physically, those things are what matters. But if you don't know who you are in Christ, I think you can get caught up in that.
I think that is so well said, Sharon. And I think also what comes from that in the perspective and image that we're seeing in the world is changing to where they're saying, just be healthy. Don't be this size, that size, or another size. Be healthy. And if we would concentrate on just being healthy, being confident in who we are so that we're not portraying to our children, as we just talked about, but also eating healthy, being aware of what we're eating so that our body can give us the energy and all that it can give us so that we can be comfortable in who we are. We're not exhausted. We're not wore down. We're not putting stuff into our body that our body can't use. I think all of those pieces are important. And getting the exercise, not necessarily having to go to the gym, but be active, walk around a little bit, do things that help circulate your blood, to keep you going. And I think we're seeing more and more that healthy is no longer perceived as the anorexic individual, except in very negative areas of life.
I think also that we are focusing more on what's coming from the inside, like the character. I love that kids are not bullying each other as often as they used to. That's more of a physical thing. I'm glad that they're discussing these issues because when you're a child, if you're heavy or thin, you often get made fun of. So I find that the communication is different, and I think that's a real positive thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, ladies, I want to say thank you so much for assisting today and helping other ladies figure out what is best not only for us, but what's great for our families and helping to shine the light for others to make a way. Belinda Barbieri, thank you. Dalia Burgoin, thank you. Tawnya-Gregory, thank you. Sharon-Jawo, thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and listeners. Thank you as well. Everyone have a blessed day in the Lord. Bye-bye.